We begin with our call to worship. Beautiful are the works of God. Beautiful also are the skins of God's people. Beautiful is the mind of God. Beautiful also are the hopes of God's people. Beautiful is the heart of God. Beautiful also are the souls of God's people. God made the heavens and the earth. To God be the glory for the things God has done. We join together in our opening prayer. God of unconditional love, you who shows no partiality in respect to persons, nations, or races, we have heard your good news of great joy for all people. We hear that good news, and in hearing, believe. We know that your sanctuary is a house of worship for all people, with no regard for the color of our skin. As we worship you, knit us into a people, a seamless garment of many colors. May we celebrate our unity, made whole in our diversity. Amen.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. As you know, I spend my time building with Habitat for Humanity and making music with the praise band at church. With the stay-at-home request, I needed something else to do, so I've been building on my workshop here in the garage and took my vocal coach up on an offer to take a 30-day singing course over the internet. He's in LA. The second day of class, we were instructed to find a song to work on that would challenge us for the next 30 days. A friend suggested I sing If I Can Dream, written by Walter Brown in 1968, 2 months after Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. It was then recorded by Elvis. I had no idea when I started working on this song that it would be so on point today. I'm no Elvis, so please focus on the words. There must be lights burning brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying higher in a sky more blue. If I can dream of a better land where all my brothers walk hand in hand, tell me why, oh why, oh why can't my dream come true? Oh why there must be peace and understanding sometimes, strong wind of promise that will blow away all the doubt and fear. If I can dream of a warmer sun where hope keeps shining on everyone, tell me why, oh why, oh why won't that sun appear? We're lost in a cloud with too much rain. We're trapped in a world that's troubled with pain. But as long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. Deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still I am sure that the answer's gonna come somehow. Out in the dark, there's a beckoning candle. Whoa, yeah. And while I can think, while I can walk, while I can stand, while I can talk, while I can dream, whoa, whoa, right now. Thank you.
This morning we'll be reading from the scripture 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Now it says this. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, you were enticed and led astray by idols that cannot speak. Therefore, I want you to understand that no one speaking by the Spirit of God ever says, let Jesus be cursed. And no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are variety of services, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it's the same God who activates all of them in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. To one is given through the Spirit the inheritance of wisdom, and to another the inheritance of knowledge, according to the same Spirit. To another faith by the same Spirit. To another gift of healing by one of the Spirit. To another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another the discernment of spirits, to another various kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. To all are activated by one and the same Spirit, who allots to each one individually, just as the Spirit has chosen. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members are of the same body, through many are one body. So it is with Christ, for in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit.
For our conversation message this morning, I'm delighted to be with my accountability partner, the Reverend Andre Pirtle. Andre and I first met when he was serving at Zion United Church of Christ in Milwaukee, and we did one community and then sacred conversations together, and he continues to work with me as my accountability partner in that venture, now through a shared participation between Emmanuel Baptist in Brookfield, where Andre is on the ministry staff and involved in street life and Dispensa de la Paz. But Andre is also a community organizer working at the Woodlands housing development, where he is a part of that community, engaged in ministry and mission and community work there. So, Andre, thank you for taking time to be with us. And this congregation loves you.
And I love you all too. I love you all too, and I love you as well.
Well,
Seriously.
you know, it's mutual. So we're excited to have you. And in the work that I've been doing with the National UCC, one of the questions that always we ask first is, are you okay? Are you okay, Andre?
No, I'm not. I think that there's a lot going on in the world, and I think there's always been a lot going on, but it's under the magnifying glass. And quick story, right?
Yeah, please.
As a kid, there were certain movies my mother didn't want me to watch because she understood, and kids don't understand this, that you can't unsee something.
Yeah.
So even as goofy as this is, my whole faith, like what I believe in God, it started from what God isn't. So I snuck and I watched the movie The Exorcist as a kid.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I watched a movie in the early 2000s called Stigmata, and it just scared me, right? And even to this day, I'm 29, and I still see those images. A lot of times you put yourself in the position of the lead character or the villain. And the awesome thing about movies is that they go off and you can see that actor in a different movie. But what's going on in the world right now, there are no actors. And when we see people get killed, whether it's in our own neighborhoods, whether it's on TV, whether somebody recording it, you can't unsee that. And I'm big in books like the DSM-5, and I'm pretty sure that eventually in this next DSM, there's going to have some form of media-induced PTSD because of times like now, where you can't unsee this, and it affects the way you interact with people. And so, I'm not okay with what's going on right now, and not right now.
I appreciate your honesty, and I think it's important to say that we're not okay, because I think when we pretend like we're okay in the midst of all the crises going on in the world and all the violence and all the anger and hate, we shouldn't be okay, and it's okay not to be okay. Last Sunday in my sermon, I quoted you, and I quoted a post you'd done on Facebook where you referenced a phone call you had with your mom asking you not to go out. Would you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I think that, I think everyone, it's not even an American thing anymore. Everyone in the world knows, about the protests and things that are going on from the death of Mr. Floyd. And my mother, I am a community organizer. I am a pastor. I am deeply involved in my community, in multiple communities. And I'm not saying that it's a bragging thing. What I'm saying is to show my mother's perspectives. So when she sees people protesting, she knows it's only a matter of time before, well, my son is a community organizer. Community organizers are doing this. Christians are doing this. My baby's going to be out there. So as I'm sitting I'm sitting at home, I get a phone call from my mom, and I've watched my mom go through cancer. I've watched her go through just all sorts of things that broke her. So I know her voice, and it's a crack in her voice when she's about to cry, and she immediately answers the phone, hello, and she just goes in from the perspective of, hey, I love you. I know you want to be out there. I know you never got to tell me, but not right now because of fear of what could happen. And, as a young man, I'm still like, Mom, I'm good. God has me. She's like, I hear you. But my mom is older than me. So she's seen things that I know about, but she's also seen things that she can't talk about.
Right.
And that's what she's alluding to, baby. I've seen this happen for years. I've seen this happen. I've seen good people like you go out there to do something right, and they don't make it home. And she has a few choice words how she says it, but it's ultimately stay in the house because if something happens to you, I won't know what to do. And but it was a fear. It was a fear. It brought me back to when I was 6, and we had to have conversations about strangers and people coming around. It was a seriousness that I haven't even heard when me and her in the hospital for her cancer. It's not just seriousness. She's afraid. So I had to stay in the house that whole weekend. Not because I want to, but my mother's afraid, and the truth is, it's for a righteous reason.
Right. Right.
So.
When I read that post, my heart immediately went out to your mom because as the mom of a black son, I know that conversation. And your mom I only know a part of it. Your mom has lived through what it's like to be judged by the color of your skin first, and to know the heartache and the violence that's often related to that. And when she says, you said, you could tell right by the tone of her voice that she's serious. I better not go out. You know, and we want to. You're always our babies, and we always want to protect you. But I think that every parent has had a conversation with their child at some point about trying to be safe. But I think I know for a fact that the conversations I've had to have with my son are radically different than the conversations that, for example, I had with my daughter.
Gotcha, yeah.
And not
yeah.
because of gender, but because of the color of his skin. And there's a whole different risk there.
Yeah, it's amazing how just that one factor can lead to two completely different results. Same
Right.
place, same time,
Yeah,
just completely different realities sometimes.
right, yeah. Please tell your mom we love her and we're holding her in our prayers.
I definitely will.
I've been thinking a lot about how this feels like such a pivotal moment in history.
It is. It
Like
is.
things are really
Yeah.
coming together. And I know I hear from members of our congregation, from my friends, and this was where I was a couple years ago when I started this journey, and my eyes were open to,
Gotcha, yeah.
oh, if I don't look through the lens of my privilege, the world is a very different place than
Yeah.
than I thought it was. And so I think people are motivated to want to do something. And I think
Yeah.
our tendency as white people, is to want to turn to people of African descent and say, well, what can we do? Because we feel bad. We are disgusted by the violence. We want the world to be a better place. And, one of the things that I wanted to say to our congregation and that I have learned is, you've been doing this work your whole life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's our turn to do our work as white people. And part of that is having open conversations like this where we don't expect you to do the work for us.
Yeah.
We don't expect you to give us the answer about how do we solve racism,
Yeah.
but to hear honestly with an open heart how the world is different for you. And to take ourselves out of the center and out of our privilege to be able to look at that and believe what you say and to really have some perspective on that. Do you feel like it's an important moment in history?
Oh, yeah.
And that maybe
Oh, my
this time
gosh.
something will change?
Yes and no, right?
Okay.
And I just want to be completely transparent.
Please.
Absolutely, yes. I get shaky about it now. Like me and my wife, we came back from Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
And we love Trader Joe's. They have the good seafood.
Right.
And I mean swordfish.
Yeah.
So we come in from Trader Joe's. I'm in a happy mood, and we're in Tulsa. So we get out of our car. I'm taking the bags in the house, and I look across the street, and it's about 40 to 50 people on the corner, and this is Tulsa.
Wow.
So I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on over here? And I'm gonna just be blunt, so I don't mean to be offensive, but everybody is from Caucasian, or is Caucasian from European descent.
Okay.
Just based on skin color,
Right.
they're white people. What people would consider white people. And they have Black Lives Matter signs up. And video doesn't lie. And, this started in 1617, 1619. And and I cry. I'm like, because I've never seen, as a black man, I've always had to prove something. You get what I mean? Like if I say it, I've always had to prove it and back it up. And not just once, but my whole life I've had to, if I say this is my reality, I had to show it in multiple different ways. Like my word was never just good enough. So to hear somebody saying, you don't got to say it anymore. We get it. And we get it to the point where we're going to protest out here.
Right.
And it wasn't like the protest was uncontested. It was peaceful, but there were cars pulling up. It was one specific pulled up. Hey, why don't you do that protest in the city? And the woman said, and
Right.
And all right, let's see how this goes.
Right.
And a woman leading the protest, she just was like, we're doing it here. We're doing it in our community. And by the way, we were over there yesterday too. But she stood up to him.
Right.
And I think it's different. Like I'm the oldest, right?
Yeah.
I think it's different than when my sister stands up to somebody who's bullying her when a big brother comes out.
Right. Right,
And says,
right.
hey, that's my sister. And to have people to say, yeah, we can do it anywhere else, but these are our people.
Right.
And like they're, yes, black, white, Latino, these are our people, and it's not going anymore.
Right.
And so from that standpoint, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I'm hoping something changes. And I could see something change because they're talking about laws now.
Yeah.
And before it was just on, you should feel good. But not everybody has the same level of empathy or sympathy. And they're not even the same thing. But to see people say, we need a law change. We need something in handwriting, because I say this, and I want to be honest. If a video can change your mind to one narrative, I promise you another video can do the same.
Right.
So rest in peace to the gentleman who passed away. And that video was like earth-shattering, because I can't even see his face in there. I see my face. I see my brother's face.
Absolutely.
I see my unborn children's face. So when people are, it's difficult. But like I said, I hope something changes.
Yeah.
I really hope something changes. But I know we've been here before.
Yeah.
We've been here before. We've had videos like, since 2001, we've had video cameras. We've been here before. Like, we were here in the Rodney King situation.
Right.
We were there a few weeks before Rodney King passed away and a little girl was shot in a grocery store in California. We've been here before.
Right.
So what I'm hoping for is that we're never in this place again.
Right.
So I have hope for it, but I've seen this movie before. I'm praying to God that
Right.
it has a different ending this time.
Right. And that we stick with it, and it isn't just this is a moment,
Yeah.
and the moment fades, and we go
Yeah.
back to like like nothing ever happened.
Because this, my biggest fear is that this is like, and you're going to laugh at me, this is like bell bottoms in the 60s and 70s.
You say that because you know I was alive then.
No.
Yes, I had them.
You were born in 1988. I
love you.
know. But, like, it's a fad. It's like, it's a fashion statement. The
Right.
Black Lives Matter. Like, yes, we stand up for Black lives. Like, man, the worst thing that can happen is this becomes just something organizations can capitalize on.
Right.
And I don't want that. I want real change for us all.
Yeah. In the webinar that the UCC offered, The Cross and the Lynching Tree, the panel talked about, and I don't remember which panelist said this, but, talked about the importance of white allies, but also like, that's great. If you want to lead a protest, that's wonderful. If you want to be out there on the street corner in your own neighborhood, but if that's not your thing, that's okay too.
Absolutely.
But also, I need you here in 3 weeks when this dies down.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need you here in November when we go to the polls. I need you not to forget this moment and to start making those changes. And that also the conversations we have that change laws, the conversations that change our communities, they're important. But also as important are the conversations we have with our own families around the Thanksgiving table or, the barbecue when somebody makes a comment. That we don't just go, ha, that's uncomfortable, and laugh it off, but we stand up and say, no,
that's wrong.
That's wrong, and it's not acceptable. That's how we dismantle racism, is those little conversations as well as the big pieces.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think, I'm always good for, like, a good conversation, but I think that one thing that, like, I've learned more about myself through this whole process is that, like, if you're not careful, we'll turn this into a conference and never implement it in our churches.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We'll fly out to Dallas. We'll have an awesome time talking about this, and nothing will change in the day-to-day life of you, or the church. And that's why I love when we had this conversation, the sacred conversation of racism. We didn't go and do it somewhere else. You said, let's do it here. Let's do it 8 Sundays, a lot of Sundays. Let's do it here. Let's do it here, where the members can talk about it, and this will affect change immediately. I think too often we have conversations and go back to our huts, and what happens is the conversation stays where we left it, and it doesn't continue. And I know that we've done that class almost a year ago, last year at some point. And I'm sorry, my mind is hazy because of the last 6 months. But but that conversation still is going on here. And even when we did the course at Emmanuel, and earlier this year. Like, that conversation is still going on right now, and we didn't even get to finish it.
Right.
And that's why it's important, as you said, to do it, not just at the barbershop, when you're out in public, not social media. Cool, do that.
Right.
But when you're at home, because when we talk about it in home, now there's accountability.
Yeah.
You said that out there, Andre, but do you mean that out there, or do you mean that in your day-to-day life? Because I watched how you looked at that guy.
Right.
Accountability, and I think that's what needs to happen with this, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, my faith calls me to this work.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I could coast into retirement and not do much different than I've done my whole career.
Yeah.
But my faith calls me to dig deeper, and this has been hard work because I've had to face my own implicit bias.
Same
I've
here.
had to really do some soul searching and some hard work, and to me, though, that's what makes faith more vital.
Yeah, for
you know.
sure.
I wanted you to say a little bit about the the Corinthians passage and the different gifts of the Spirit and how you see that tying in with all this.
Yeah, and like I wanna agree with you because what you said, like it makes sense. Like you gotta understand, like when I just mean like if you're watching, I really want you to understand that I'm not doing this because I'm black.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm not like, I'm going to speak up because I'm black and this benefits me. No, this puts me in a hot seat.
Yep.
So it's not that I'm doing this because I'm black. And no, I'm doing this because of what I believe. I believe that when the Jews were in slavery in Egypt, God said, he let them go.
Yeah.
That's oppression, and that's oppression. And if God will do that there, and he's for freeing the captive, whether it's physical change, mental change, or systematic oppression change, this is what God calls us to.
Yeah.
The thing about faith is it's like water. You say, I'm going to just worship on Sunday, and you really start to believe, and pretty soon it affects how you write checks.
Right.
And it affects how you talk to people. And it affects how you look at people. And it affects how you act. So I'm not doing this because I'm black. I'm doing this because I believe if Christ was on earth right now, this is what he'll be doing.
Amen.
Amen. That's what I believe. Not just because this is cool and hot in the moment, because this is difficult.
Right.
And with that, everybody has different roles. Like, I was talking to a woman, she was about 92 years old. And she's like, Andre, I want to go out there and protest. Charlotte, sit down. Don't do that, Charlotte. Not that it's not a good idea, but like, sweetheart, you can barely walk. And that's not me being mean.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that your gifting is somewhere else.
Right.
And just
Right.
because people are on the news doing that doesn't mean you have to do it. Like, God gives everybody something different. In the same way, you are super organized and it's beautiful. My gift is not that. My gifting is not that. My gifting is I am really talented. I've been blessed at relationships. I've been really blessed at relationships. And God has, for some reason, made me short, because short things like teddy bears make people feel comfortable. So that's my thing. And inside of being comfortable, you can have real conversations.
Right.
So it might not be for me to be out there, because I don't know if I could take a punch from anybody and not throw one back. And that's just the reality.
Right.
But my reality is, we can talk about this here.
Right.
My reality is that I've been blessed in different areas to have conversations. So what I'm saying is this. I know I'm going everywhere.
That's all right.
But this passage speaks about various gifts. The first thing you got to do is know what your gift is. Mm-hmm. You have to know what your gift is. Take time to say, this is what God has developed my whole life. I've always been good at this. And that's the area that you can be using your platform in. Mm. In the same way that some people just follow them. Yeah. You don't want them organized in the waters, but you might want them in the front of the protest.
Right.
And it might be somebody where you're not comfortable in front of people, but you know all the county executives. Mm. It's a conversation that can happen out of there. You might know somebody that's in charge of landscaping, and you might not be comfortable with organizing, but how do we get more people involved in that? How do we get that to support that? And I think a lot of times, like, we think that we have to do what everybody else is doing, and that's not the truth. You have to move in the direction God is leading you. And some of you, just like me, you know your gifting. So wherever God calls you to, like, use your gifts in that way. So many times we try to recreate the wheel,
Right, right.
and it just will drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Like, lions don't swim a lot.
Right.
So I'm not going to ask a lion to do that. But I will use a lion in its calling. And I think that's what God has done with a lot of folks. And I think that's an area of direction where we could be going, but we don't have the answers. We're all figuring this out, you know? But when you capitalize on your gifts, your platforms, leverage the folks you know, then when we bring it together, we have a fuller picture of, oh, well, this is what we can do, because now we have not just people, not just leadership, but also structure. So wherever God has blessed you with your gifting at, that's where God wants to bless your gifting at that point.
Yeah.
So I know I'm speaking in circles. I'm just really passionate
No.
about I'm really passionate about that.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Dre. And, you know, while you were talking, I was thinking that for those of us, most call us white people, you know, one of the gifts I have found of the Spirit that isn't named by Paul in that passage, but is that gift of listening.
Yeah.
And that because I often speak from a position of privilege as a white person, as a highly educated person, as a person of some wealth and means. I'm used to being the leader. And I'm used to being the prophet and being the one that says, you know, and people listen. And I am finding in this journey that I need to shut up and I need to listen. And I need to admit that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I need to learn from other people. And I think that, you know, we think of that gift sometimes of the people who are quiet and listen. You know, I'm in a meeting and you're thinking like, are they tuning in or tuning out, or are they mad because you can see they're thinking about something on their face, and then when they open their mouth, it is just the most succinct, wise, beautiful thing ever. You know, I want to be that person.
That is my wife. I'm telling you, that's
Yes,
she's
she is
quiet.
like
When
that.
she speaks, it's like, I should have emptied the garbage. You're right. I should've.
Exactly. But, you
But
know,
you're
I want
right,
to be
though.
more
Yeah.
like that, and less the person who has to have all the answers and explain everything. And, you know, so I'm just so grateful for this time. We could do this all day, but no one will watch it. So,
I understand that. Can I say one more thing?
yeah,
before?
absolutely.
So a big part of like my faith is, you know, studying. And I'm never going to be the guy to say what we should or shouldn't, what the church should be doing, because that's up to Christ.
Right.
You know, I'm just a part of this, you know. But I do want to say, from a historical standpoint, why or even how we got here to this day. I think that in the same way, and we spoke about it, but in the same way, when you look at American history and the Christian faith history in America, when you look at when America came to be in the 1600s, if you want to consider it that, in the same way that banks back dollars and gold backs money and things like that, you got to really think about this. Slavery was implemented, and in the same way that money is backed, slavery was backed by the Bible. Like, people legit used the Bible, scriptures, to justify rape, killing, hurting, selling people.
Yeah.
And over years and years and years, several hundred,
Yeah.
money was accumulated and systems were created. So how many systems in America were created out of that blood money? And out of that blood money created systems. Out of those systems, we got politicians, and we got people who created the law, the Constitution. And I don't want to get. I'm not trying to get political.
Right.
What I am saying is that black people, we were left out. And out of those buildings and establishments that were created on blood money and slave money, churches were also created too.
Yep.
And that's where the rift of black church and white church came. And that exists to this day.
Yep.
That exists to this day. And if God said it's all right because the Bible said it, then on top of that, laws were created.
Yeah.
So when we talk about this whole conversation, some people believe that Christianity was a part of creating racism in America. And of course, those Christians who did that, they were dead wrong for doing that.
Right.
But me as a Christian, knowing that the people before me did it the wrong way, how can I not speak up?
Absolutely.
How can I not speak up when what we believe was used to hang people from trees
Right.
and sell their children off for generations?
And you're right. You know, it's important to know our history and to know our real history. And then to also look at the text and reclaim it.
Absolutely.
You
I love the way
know-
you worded that, to reclaim it. Reclaim it, yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And that's hard work.
Yeah, it is.
But it's
yeah.
important work. And it's the only way we can, back to what, the faith calling us to this is, that's the only way we can be honest and true in our faith and to Christ's calling for us is to reclaim that.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
You know I love you too. I'm like, do
Thank
I say it first? We both about to say it.
I know. I'm so grateful we could do that. Let's do this again, really, because I
should.
really appreciate it, and I know how much wisdom I get from you as a prophet, and I want
thank
to.
you.
I believe you're a prophet. Don't shake your head. You're a prophet, and I want others to benefit from that wisdom too. So, thank you.
Anytime, anytime. Thank you for having me as well.
Awesome. As we come to a time of prayer, we begin always with a time of silence for us to lift the many joys that we celebrate as well as the concerns that are on our hearts. Following a few moments of silence, I will lead us in a pastoral prayer to open our hearts to dialogue that was created by Ludi O. Lee, Minister for Children and Families, UCC Local Ministries. Let us be together in the spirit of prayer. Jesus, you are our example for a sacred conversation on race. In you, we learn what it is to commune together in the heart of God. We ought to be comforted in the knowledge that we are created in the image of God. Yet do we embody this knowledge in thought, word, or deed? Help us, Jesus. You who embody the image of God most perfectly. Help us to see what you see in all the diverse faces of this world. Help us to see the human face. Where are the differences, Jesus? How can we start a sacred conversation on race with someone outside our racial and cultural identities when we feel there is no trust relationship to build on? It is absurd to do this. Show us the way. How can we be intentional about going out of our way to relate with someone outside of our race and culture? How can we nurture the relationship in a way that opens and does not threaten? Show us your way, Jesus. We look at your short life and see that you showed us who to include at your banquet table, at your party. When you invite, we are all welcome. But to do this, we have to continue to be open and to be understanding and to not be threatened. To this day, we continue not to understand what you were all about and why you did what you did. We accuse your disciples of not understanding your purposes, but we are the same too. Help our church leaders, help all of us see more clearly the vision of what you are all about. When you come first, we glorify you. If each and every one in the United Church of Christ chooses to reach out in dialogue, even to just one person of another race, culture, gender, sexual orientation, faith, gender identity, would that make a difference, Jesus? Show us how to make this conversation on race truly sacred. Show us what it means to commune together in the heart of God. We ask this and every prayer in the name of your Son, who taught us to pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
God, I just thank you for being who you are, despite who we are. And God, sometimes we are prideful, sometimes we are selfish, sometimes we are pig-headed, but you aren't those things. You bring grace, mercy, and you bring insight. And God, I'm asking that this is the time where you give clear direction, and not just from your standpoint, but God, open up our ears to hear. Too often we don't listen, we speak. And I'm just asking that we get clarity of your voice. And to get that, God, you might have to make some of us be quiet, including myself, for your words to be heard. As we go out into this world, let us be the light of the world. Let us be the salt of this world, as you believe we are. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.